There you go. Look at you.
Look at me. Got it. Leaving
Look at
meeting.
you.
Got it.
You were saying you were so much more beautiful yesterday when we had originally scheduled, but how is that possible?
I was more beautiful yesterday.
You look fantastic.
You get second best today.
The second best is pretty damn good when it comes to Chris Brodbeck.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight on the show we have a very old friend of mine, and the guy who I totally credit for my understanding of what the bass guitar is and how it's used, and I'll get to that story a little later. We have Mr. Chris Brodbeck from C-Spot Run, one of Canada's longest standing bands, I believe, at this point. But let's get into it right away with Chris. You're looking great today, Chris, as we've already established. What are you resisting?
I am resisting negativity.
Very good.
Doing things I don't want to do. I'm resisting the morning.
Yeah, I've been resisting mornings for a long time.
Here we are.
Here we are.
How
are you, man?
Happily resisting.
Excellent.
Yeah.
What's going on in the world of Chris right now?
Chris is at home like everybody else, working at home, but I've always worked at home, so it's not unusual for me.
Mm-hmm.
Pandemic, there was a lot of people in my house, in my office.
Yeah.
But I'm doing pretty good now. Like most of the time I got the house to myself, so I can do what I got to do. Be creative. Try to be creative anyway.
Try to be creative, which you've been doing, Chris. Like, I think C-Spot Run is in its 63rd year of existence, and you're 109 now, right?
Yeah, pretty close.
I have the facts right.
I've known you since you were, I don't know.
I think it was, I was in grade 9, so that would have been 14.
Yeah.
It's been a long time.
You were a nice kid. You're still a nice kid.
Yeah, right. So you're at home in Toronto working with your wife and family. As I mentioned, C-Spot Run are one of, I mean, how many years have you been doing it now?
I've lost track, seriously.
Yeah, it's been a long time. Like most bands, you know, they get together, they go for the record deal, they play some shows, they get frustrated. You know, maybe they get signed, maybe they get an album out, you know, and one of them who wrote the songs makes all the money and the rest of the band gets pissed off and they break up after a couple of years. You know, we've heard that story a million times. But the story that fascinates me is, you know, as a young guy from Montreal, you and one of your oldest friends started a band. And in the 80s, when I met you, you were still doing like the 4-night-a-week cover A circuit, you know, where you'd come to a town like St. John's, Newfoundland, they'd put you up and you'd do like Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. They'd pay you a bunch of money, then you'd go to Halifax the next night. And you guys were doing an amazing job with 80s covers while slowly slipping in your original stuff. Whereas a lot of bands are either a cover band or an original band. And you've maintained that for so long. What's the secret to doing that?
Well, from the get-go, when we put the band together, Randy and I and my brother and Paul Moore, who's in Halifax now, the idea from the very start was to write our own material and make a record. We didn't really know what we were doing, but the main thing was that we were writing material, rehearsing the material, recording the material with, you know, little 4 tracks and whatnot. Mm-hmm. And then playing them. So the very first show we ever did, we had 4 originals right off the bat. And every gig that we did, we tried to put in as many as we could without sort of getting the audience bored or the venue owner getting mad at us or whatever. And as we played these venues more often, we got away with playing more because people started getting used to our own songs. So they were happy to hear them. So we could play a little more as the years went by. And then all those years, all that working and all that playing, we actually made pretty good money. Mm-hmm. And we put the money aside to record. It was all, we put a portion of our money, and it always went into a recording project. So we were an indie band. We were an indie band long before there were indie bands at all. You know, they talk a lot about the Bare Naked Ladies. you know, being one of the first indie bands in Canada, but they just got famous faster.
They were the first indie band to get famous. Yeah.
Yeah, they were there. Yeah. And we were doing that since the beginning. And, yeah, we just always used our money to go in. And then eventually we got hooked up with Gary Moffat from Maple Wine and Bill Shaflosky, who did all the Frank Marino albums. And they lent their vast experience to us to learn how to make records and produce us. And so we learned a lot of stuff from those guys. And we had the money to finance it. And we just kept doing that. And then eventually we had enough material to put our first EP out, which was a cassette, which is retro cool today.
Yeah.
And I think I still have a couple. And it just went from there until we signed our first record deal and had a lot more money to really do it upright. Yeah. And put out our first album in 97, and then the follow-up in 99, and then all that stuff you said at the beginning went for a shit. As it does. Yeah. And we ended up going sliding backwards a little bit, but you know, we just became the indie band that we were from the start, and continued to funnel money into recording and making our own CDs, making our own albums. So we made a few more albums after that. And here we are. Still.
And you weren't alone in that time when the record companies kind of dried up. You know, I mean, every band that I know went back to being an official indie band when, you know, especially in Canada, once the labels started closing their doors, Canada shut down pretty quick. And everybody had to raise their own money and, you know, make your own records, produce your own records, hire your own publicists, hire your own radio tracker, like essentially paying for everything that the record companies used to do.
That's right.
And did you find that model works at all, or has the COVID thing just messed it all up too much that you can't really judge?
Yeah, I think the pandemic really kicked us in the shorts, and we're just crawling out of our hole right now, trying to figure out, you know, we got to get back into the black, get back into the creative mode. You know, a lot of people said to me, "Hey, oh man, you must have written like a double live album during the pandemic." And I'm like, "Oh man, you don't know. Like, it was so hard, like with family and stuff like that, and all that goes along with a family and a home. We just had to keep the boat afloat, you know, and." As you know, as a creative person like yourself knows that you need absolute minimum 4 or 5 hours of uninterrupted flow to get stuff going.
Yep.
And I do anyway. And like, you can't like go 10 minutes and then all of a sudden you got to do something else. 10 minutes, you got to do something else. It's always interrupted. And I never had a chance to really get fully into writing a catalog of any sort. So I just collected ideas. You know, I've got Logic Pro. I record with Logic Pro. I have a little project studio in my basement. I got all the gear I need to get going. And I just did you know, half an hour here, half an hour there of bits and pieces. So now I got a big old trunk load of bits and pieces to go through.
I hear you so clearly. I had the pandemic combined with Allison getting sick, and there was a period of about 2.5 years where I was writing material that was really just sickening therapy, not anything I'd ever want to release, just waiting. And I'd keep getting all these little pieces like, that's something there, and I'd put it aside while all this other shit came out. And right now I have a big pile of pieces.
Yeah.
That's a daunting thing to go to as well, because each one of those pieces came from, like you say, a bunch of hours of getting into a creative space to get this little gem of a nugget, and then you put it away, and then a couple of years later you go back and it's like, oh, what was the magic here? And what? It's really hard to capture that sometimes. So I feel your pain.
Yeah, it's tricky.
Yeah.
I just an interesting thing just happened to me a couple of weeks ago. I was digging through some old boxes, trying to purge my garbage in this house. And I came across a tape that was full of demos that I did, you know, on some Fostex 4-track on the road somewhere. And one of the songs was Weightless. The original demo, which I'd been looking for years. I couldn't figure out where it ended up, but I found it. It was really fun. But I found other songs in there that I had no recollection of whatsoever. And I listened to them, and I had to go out and actually buy a cassette deck because I didn't own a cassette deck. So I had to go out and buy myself a cassette deck so that I could play this and dump it down to Logic and digitize it and listen to it. And I found a song on there. I was like, this is pretty good. So I'm going to use this as my jumping board. I'm going to go and see if I can fix it up and maybe try to record it and see what it sounds like. And from there, I'm sure I'll get rolled into other material, which is what happens.
Isn't it amazing how much stuff we create that we actually forget? Sammy has been the band archivist for years, and you know, we put out In the Trees a couple of years ago, the 25th anniversary, and we're coming up on the 25th anniversary of another one, and Sammy's been sending some old demos and stuff to us. And there's every now and again I'll get an MP3 and I listen to it, and I'm halfway through the song and I'm like, I've never ever heard this in my life. I don't recognize it. I don't recognize the bass line. I have no memory of this. Even after a couple listens, sometimes I'm like, I don't remember this song at all.
Yeah.
It's a very strange thing. Sometimes you find a gem, you know, other times you see lots of work in progress, but cool to find the first demo of Weightless, though. That's awesome.
Yeah. Maybe I'll have it mastered and released.
That would be cool. You know, maybe you can put it onto a picture of a monkey and release it as an NFT and become a millionaire.
Oh my God. If only.
That's the way to go. That's the way to go. Yeah. Do an NFT of Weightless and sell 1,000 copies of it for ridiculous amounts of money.
There you go.
Set for life.
He's been a great supporter and a fan and a friend, and you've always helped us along the way. And people should know that, because I was thinking about you the last couple of days, and you know, since I've known you, and when you moved to Toronto and you were getting involved with Access Magazine and Keith Sharp and all those guys, and all the stuff you did along the way, you know, with bringing us on tour with the Watchmen was just a fantastic fun. You guys were an awesome band, and I've been a fan of all these years. And yeah, people should know that. People should know that you've always been a great fan and supporter of our band and helped us a lot. We really appreciate it.
Well, you were the first professional cover band that I saw when back in the 80s, when you came to St. John's, and I met you through my sister. And you were doing, you know, versions of the Police and U2 and I think probably Simple Minds and all that stuff. And you guys were knocking it out of the park. You know, you've got that voice that covers from Bono to Sting through to everything else, which I still don't know how you do that. You know, and also let's not forget, I mean, when I bought my first bass, I bought it from my neighbor who I was babysitting for, and I was babysitting for her all summer to pay it off. And I was sitting at home playing that thing, trying to learn a guitar solo on it or something, when you stepped by my bedroom door with my sister and you went, "What are you doing?" And you then told me what a bass guitar was. I didn't realize that I didn't have a bass guitar. I thought it was a guitar. I didn't know there was any difference. There was no internet. I was 13 years old in Newfoundland with, you know, limited resources. You turned me on to some of my first bass players, and you showed me what the instrument was. And, you know, for years in my mind as a child in Newfoundland, I mean, you were the bass player. It was like, you know, Chris is the guy, he knows everything. And then when I came to Toronto, and, you know, C Spot Run were still doing their thing. And yeah, I think Music Express was doing a sampler or something, and we got you on that. And we reconnected from there, and then along with the Watchmen and stuff. And in recent years, I've come out and opened up for you guys a few times doing the solo acoustic thing. Yeah. I just love what you guys do. I wish I could see you more. I love the vibe of it. It's really interesting to me too, how you guys managed as a independent band to last this long and fund yourselves. But I love the creation of the Orange Man group and how that became sort of, you know, C Spot Run were, you know, a cover band with some originals. Then C Spot Run became a cover band with originals. Then you started putting out records. You had, you know, Weightless, Terrified, and a bunch of other songs on the radio. And all of a sudden you were a radio band, and people were coming to see C Spot Run. And then you still had this vast wealth of covers. So this thing called Orange Man Group came out. Do you want to explain that a little bit? Because that's a really cool thing.
Yeah, so C Spot Run became, an all original. Like we started like the Beatles, playing their covers, and the Stones played their covers, and then they started records, and then they became a recording act. We became recording artists, and from there we just wanted to keep it that way. And we had signed a deal with a label in Quebec that unfortunately went south, and we got into some legal troubles trying to wiggle out of that. And in the meantime, we were like, well, why don't we just go out and just play? Because we're players and we're performers. We're not really the type of guys that wanted to go get a day job or whatever, work at Tim Hortons or whatever, HMV selling CDs. We wanted to play. We wanted to continue to play. We're players. We love playing. It's the reason we got into it in the first place. And we said, well, we can't go to the C Spot Run because we have a brand and we had established ourselves as recording artists, and we wanted to keep that and protect that. And so we said, well, why don't we go out and just start another band, and we'll just do all those 80s covers that we love doing. Right. And so we're like, oh, wait, but we can't look like us. So we got to look like somebody else. So we kind of took the approach the superheroes in Marvel do. And we just sort of disguised ourselves in a superhero disguise and created Orange Man and went out and played all those fun 80s covers that we used to do. Now, we only did that because we wanted to do that and we wanted to keep playing. But what we discovered was there's a whole market and a whole age group of people who spent their entire late teens and early 20s going to bars listening to 80s music.
Yep.
And those people are now, they have, their children are older, and they have disposable income. They don't need babysitters. And it's like, hey, I heard there's this band that plays all those songs that we used to go out and get drunk and smoke to. And slowly this whole thing started to come about. And like I said, we didn't plan it this way. We weren't that smart, but it really a bunch of people. And we started doing very well with that. And so this is great. We're starting to make some money. So let's take some of that money and then we can record C Spot Run albums.
It's so genius. It's a genius logic.
Cover DIY financial plan to make records, so that way we could continue to play music and keep our jobs and actually get better. We learned how to play better and sing better and all that, and we could switch from one band to the next like no problem, As we even talked about having having C Spot Run open for Orange Man as a lark. Haven't done it yet, but maybe we should.
That was going to be my next question. Do you ever do a night where there's C Spot Run and Orange Man on the same bill?
That would be really, that would work. Because at first nobody, because of the age group we were playing to, nobody really knew who we were, as far as C Spot Run fans went. And as time went on, we got busted. People would be like, hey, wait a minute. I know you. I've seen you before. They start yelling, play Weightless.
Yeah.
And then we'd say, talking about, what are you talking about?
Which is okay now because it's a top 40 cover. So you can cover your own song.
It might be classic rock now. Yes. So there you go. That's the story.
That's always amazed me. I've struggled with that myself too, because I do a bunch of folk stuff and then I do the country stuff, and then there's a bunch of covers, and I kind of want to have two separate bands, one that can just go out and do just covers all night where I can just kind of have fun because I love doing that, and the other one which is the the more sort of what do you call it, the more delicate original pursuit, because that always comes with the brain, which shoots you in the foot most of the times. So it's nice to have that. It must be a great thing to be able to have both of those things operating and have one funding the other. That's
Yeah. Yeah. Well, there's always been a problem with original bands trying to, unless you're that, like, whatever, 3 or 4% of those bands that can go out and make a whole heap of cash. Most of the bands that were recording along the way with us, they can't go out and make all tons of money.
No.
And so they're cash strapped, and then they fall into maybe having to get a day job or having to find money or whatever, and then it kind of wears. Whereas we were able to continue playing and then make enough money that we could take a portion of it to put aside for recording.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and so we just did that.
I think that's a problem that so many young bands have, or so many, not just young bands, but a lot of bands have, like the Watchmen too. Like, we made a lot of money, but it all went back into the machine. It all went back into, maintaining what we were doing.
Yeah.
So many artists, they go out and, they make $500 a night, and everybody takes $75 and goes and buys, a couple beers at the end of the night or whatever. And they do, 20 shows a year, and then it comes time to record and they don't have any money to record.
Yeah. Yeah.
That $75 that you make at the gig isn't really helping you. But if you put that aside, that's suddenly you've got, a couple $1,000 sitting in an account, and you can do something with it.
Yeah.
A lot of musicians don't understand that, it's not all about just making money. I guess it's the difference of building a career and just doing music as a hobby. The hobbyists have jobs, so they don't really care. But I think that your story with C Spot Run and the Orange Man Group is just fascinating. And I do kind of think that's such a winning strategy, and only you guys could do it. You guys lived through the 80s playing those covers, and to bring them back now authentically to the more mature audience, that's got to be a lot of fun.
Yeah. It was a little bit of a happy accident.
Yeah.
Which came out of just wanting to continue to play and to play music we wanted to play. So and we have so much fun with it because, when people come up to you, oh, can you play Sweet Caroline? No, I'm sorry, we don't play that one. How about the hip? You guys do any hip? No, we don't do any hip. Why don't you do any hip? Well, because they don't do us. So I'm not gonna do them. We just play with them, and they just laugh. Laugh along with the comedy and the gimmick of the whole thing. They don't get insulted. They just think it's a lot of fun, and they run with it.
Fantastic.
And we literally fell into it because we just wanted to play. We wanted to hide, and we wanted to play what we wanted to play.
Yeah. I do a thing where I go down to the Legion on Sundays. They have their jam, and I actually pull my chair over to the side off the stage, and I plug in with whoever's up, and I just sit there playing. I love playing with people, but I don't like. They're like, well, get on the stage and take. I'm like, no, I just want to sit here in the corner and play. It's a different thing, just loving playing music as opposed to doing it, for a reason, which we've all done as well.
That's it. Exactly. Yeah.
I think that's probably a big part of the key of why you guys have been able to do it for so long. You really enjoy what you're doing, you love what you're doing, and you've had the good fortune to have a combination of an independent career plus a cover band career, and the radio success you guys have had too. It's pretty awesome.
Hey Ken, hey everybody. I'm gonna play Terrified. Wake up my girl, I've got something to say to you. I've been knocked down and I don't know what's left to do. I won't live my life like I've lived my life before. I need to spread my wings before I hit the floor. I'm terrified. Woke up this morning with before I shed my skin and throw it all away. I'm looking for tomorrow, not for yesterday. I'm terrified, terrified. Thank you. Thanks, Ken. Yeah.
We so have 2000. It was 2016. Was that the last album you guys put out officially?
That was. Yeah.
And how was that experience? You covered "Burning Down the House" on that one, right?
Yeah.
So was that your first time covering one of the '80s classics?
That's the first time we ever covered a song ever, like as far as C Spot Run recording. And we played that one on Orange Man. Always did well. Loved playing it. Sort of developed a little bit of our own way of doing it. And we're still thinking along the lines of getting some radio airplay, because we had a success in that venue. Still had a lot of connections in that venue, and so we thought, when we did this album, the plan was to try to get that going and try to use some of the resources that we had. So, and then we thought, well, if we record "Burning Down the House," it might be a little bit more easy to digest for some of the reasons, because then I can play something that people would recognize rather than a brand new song. So we thought that's what our first thing was, and that didn't work because they just played the original version of the house. But we loved the song, and we had a great time recording it, and the fans liked it, so that was good, And we had a little bit of success with getting some airplay on another song on the album. The name escapes me, but we had a little bit, so that was good. And we sold albums at the gigs and whatnot, and the old school sort of way,
Yeah.
And took all the money.
Yeah. It's good. It's good to be able to take all the money sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah, I had a similar thing when I did the Ron Hynes album. I did the tribute to Ron a few years back, and I remember going to Sirius FM, whoever the MD in Montreal was. I sent him an email and, introduced him, sent him the record, and he got it back to me. And all I got back is, why would I play you when I can play Ron Hynes?
Ouch.
And I just went, yeah, I guess he's got a point.
Yeah.
You're always going to face that, I guess, when you're covering somebody else's material.
American Woman, then they'll play his version.
Well, yeah, if an American band covers a Canadian band, then it'll get played. That's it. That's a whole other thing.
That's a whole other thing.
I've stopped trying to compare Canada and the States. I mean, I've lived my life trying to balance those two, and it's, you make tons of money in Canada and you just go spend it in the States paying for hotel rooms while you're trying to get somebody to listen to you. And, you show up in a town and you call your record person in that town and say, there's no posters at the show. And they say, who are you? And you say, well, we're with this band. And they go, I don't know that band. I'm like,
yeah,
you're our A&R person. They're like, I've never heard of you.
I know.
That type of stuff kills me when you go across the border.
Yeah. If you don't have someone to champion you on someone in the States or wherever, it's very difficult.
Yeah. Well, they've all got, somebody explained it to me once, the American A&R person has 10 CDs that they have signed the checks on their desk. And if these 10 CDs don't succeed, it's their personal responsibility. And then they have 30 CDs over here from Canadian artists that they have nothing vested in. Where are they going to put their time? I mean, it's really simple, when you think about it like that.
Yeah, it's very and yeah.
So what's the plan now? What's the upcoming plan? The COVID things have lifted. Some people are back out. Some people aren't. Where do you and where do C Spot Run stand with getting back into gear?
Just crawling out of the hole, really. we don't have any money, so we have to get back in the black with the orange. Orange and that. Yeah, we have to literally crawl out of the hole and get back on pace. We got, just like anybody who's got a business out there, you got to get back. It's going to take time to get back writing, recording, get some money, working, playing, getting gigs. We just did a show in December. That was our second show back since the pandemic for C Spot Run. And it's great that the fans want to come out and see the band and everything. It's awesome. But to move forward, it's gonna take a little time, because we need to build again, and find money.
And the machine has changed too. And I'm sure for a band who travels as much as you do, just like the change of digital equipment, and all that stuff. Like even now I'm going back out and doing a few shows, and I'm just noticing everything's different. All the sound guys have iPads, and it's all different. So like everything needs to be retooled, to get it back into shape. So
yeah, Orange Man has an iPad for a sound board. We're that way.
Yeah, well, it makes sense. I mean, it's so damn easy to carry.
Things are smaller and lighter, except my bass.
You're using the Ashdowns now, right?
Yeah, I found a great rig for me, and it's lighter than what I had before, but still heavier than what most bass players are lugging around in their backpacks now.
Yeah, I was in Long McQuaid yesterday, and there's a brand new line of Ashdowns there. There's about 8 of them, and on the top of them is a big thing that says "Pick Me Up." So I had to go over and try, and I grabbed the 115, 200 watt 115, and I could literally lift it with a finger.
Amazing.
It's like it's made of cardboard. I just felt like, is there even a speaker in it? But these things sound good, like at lower volumes. Like you can't really pump them to stadium volume, not that I'm aware of anyways.
Yeah.
But I've used some of those smaller lightweight rigs, and they're fucking excellent.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what they're doing these days. But
my head is still in stadium. Like it's really hard for me to get out of that. I have, my rig is a monster, but I have to turn it down.
Yeah.
I'm always ready for the stadium.
Well, I mean, I've got my 810, which goes out for the Watchmen shows. And I'm occasionally tempted to bring it out for some of the other shows, but the reality is I just don't need it. And it kills my back.
Yeah. Hurts my back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's one of my daily things now that I have to deal with is my back pain. That's from too many years of abuse.
Yeah, I had to buy myself a really good strap, because I was throwing my spine out with this, playing bass and jumping around. And I said, I can stop jumping around, or I can get a good strap. So I got a good strap, because I can't stop jumping around.
Yeah, I'm the same. Every time a Watchmen show comes up, I'm like, I'm just going to go out and stand there tonight. I'm not going to do all that stuff. And as soon as Sammy counts in, like all of a sudden I'm on the ground, sprawled out. I'm like, what the hell am I doing? Stop doing this.
Yeah. You have some good moves, Ken, though. You got those moves, you spread the legs, and you sort of cock your head low, and you drag your bass along the stage. That's a good move, because it's not putting a lot of pressure on your spine too much. You got to stretch.
You're actually right.
Develop a good presence that will last into your golden years.
No, I mean, I can still get away with it for a few more years, I think, but that's probably it. So you are officially the 5th interview of everybody who sang, of all the 5 guest vocalists on All Together. I did Ron Hawkins, Danny. Now I got you. Dave Gunning was there. Who was the other one? Oh, there was
Matt Mays.
Matt Mays. That's right. So you're the 5th of the collection. So that's exciting today. It kind of rounds everything out and puts together. That
was amazing. Thank you so much for asking me. I was so excited, and I feel bad because I sent you a track with buzz on it, and I've since figured out how to get rid of that buzz. And I always think about you when that buzz comes into my life. But it was a great fun, and thank you for asking me. It was great to have the record. I've never had my voice on a piece of vinyl, so it's the first time. It was an amazing thing to do. I have so much gratefulness for Mike Turner.
he stepped up and really helped me put that together because my life was falling apart at the same time. And he was just amazing at helping me coordinate everything. But putting 42 musicians onto a record that aren't hearing what each other are doing and not hearing anything aside from a guide track was a challenge. But man, it was fun. What a great thing to do during a pandemic. Next time there's another pandemic, I recommend trying it out.
Very, very cool idea. Very cool idea. Yeah.
Good way to spend some time.
And the album artwork was great too. Really loved it. It's great.
Tim Lee did that. Yeah. He's an artist that I met down in Asheville, Carolina. And I love his stuff. And it was funny because when I asked him about the album, I said, do you have anything that I could use? And he said, I've got this old painting that's never been used. And he sent it to me. And I looked at it and I went, and he hadn't seen me with a beard or long hair.
Yeah.
And he sent me the cover and I went, oh my God, that looks like me. So that doesn't look anything like you. And I sent him a picture of me now and he went, oh my God, it does look like you. What's that?
That's great. That's amazing.
It was a really weird thing. Serendipitous, I guess.
Yeah.
So we've got a few minutes here left. C-Spot Run, any touring coming up, or you just sort of, is the intention to tour come up?
Just one-offs for now.
Cool.
Working out some one-offs available to anybody who wants to hire us right now.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to be, like I mentioned in the email, the Legion up here has been bringing some acts in, and I think you guys would put off a fantastic show up here and people will love you. So I'm talking to Steve about getting you up sometime. I think that'd be fun and it'd be a great chance to hang out as well.
Absolutely.
Is there any news that you have to report?
What's that?
Any news that you have to report at all?
No news yet. I told you all my stories.
Cool.
There's more stories.
Oh, I'm sure. There's always stories. And you still haven't told me after all these years, what is the secret to the Fountain of Youth and where have you found it? I still can't figure out how you look like you're 22.
I think it's, well, thank you. Thank you. I think part of it is I'm blessed with good genes. My family, my mom, my dad, all their extended brothers and sisters all look really good. So part of it is I'm lucky. And I guess growing up listening to Gene Simmons talking about no doing drugs, no smoking, and no drinking, I think it might have helped me a little.
Especially in the 80s when everybody was smoking so much. I mean, had you been a smoker back then, you would have had Leatherface for sure.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, I ingested a lot of secondhand smoke. And then when smoking was banned from venues, about 9 years after that, I got chest x-rays to see if I was okay, and I was okay. But yeah, I didn't smoke, I didn't drink. That saved me a lot of money, and I think it had a little bit of an effect, but hey, I'm not preaching.
Excellent. Well, thank you for coming on the show, Steve. Steve.
I'll say a story about Steve, Ken, okay? When I a young man, a young child, 8 years old, 7 years old, I hated my name. Now, my real name is Christoph, and my mom called me Christoph, and I hated that name. And my cousin, who was very popular and older than me, his name was Steve, and I just wanted to be called Steve all the time. So thank you.
There you go. So it's actually Christoph, eh?
Christoph, yeah. It's just my father is from Switzerland. I'm a citizen of Switzerland, and my heritage is Swiss.
That explains the youthful look. Swiss people are like that. Yeah, you've got the Swiss genes.
I got to tell you my full name, Ken, right here live on your show. Anton Christoph Brodbeck IV.
That's fucking brilliant. Anton Christoph Brodbeck IV. Yeah. Well, thank you for taking the time to come on the Whiskey Wednesday show with us. I'm very, very happy to be your friend, and I'm enamored with all the success you've had, both in life and music. It's just great. You've been a great person to have in my life for as long as it's been, and I look forward to seeing you in person again sometime soon. Let's make it happen. If you ever come to this part of the woods, then just give me a call. Let me know. Give me some advance notice, and we'll go for something. We'll go for auto sandwich or something like that. Absolutely. We're down to the last few seconds before Zoom kicks me off because of their 40-minute limit. So thank you again, and I'll be in touch real soon about trying to get you up for the Legion, and we'll talk next week about the video.
Thank you so much, Ken. It was an honor.
Thanks, brother. I love you. Okay.